This is a 2001 Yamaha Royal Star Tour Classic XVZ1300 AH. Anyway, I've already started putting them back together. You just separate all the parts, separate the bodies. I'm just going to throw some tips at you here. I do this, I have a small shop, and rebuild these all the time. I'm just going to give you a once over. If you're new to all this, maybe it'll help you out. That's just an air vent there, up here. Air vents. This is the V4 Cruiser Yamaha. These are air cutoffs that tries to help it to keep from popping when you decelerate by making the mixture a little bit richer. Right here, that's where you sink the carbs. See the screw right here. The sinking is only at very low speed, at low idle. You put your gauges on. Where are my gauges at? Right here. I used to use mercury sticks. They suck. You can read these, you can see these, they're accurate. They got the little valves where you can get them as sensitive as you want them. They work great. All sinking is, if you see the butterflies in here, it's getting them opening up exactly at the same time, and more importantly than that, is each cylinder might be tuned a little different, in a little bit different condition, have more or less suction per cylinder. And this way, at idle, at low speed idling, when you sink it, it gets that suction almost exactly the same on every cylinder. And that way you don't have one cylinder trying to run faster than another cylinder, and the engine's sitting there fighting itself, and it'll sound like it's trying to blow up. If you get one of these any four-cylinder bike with a cylinder not quite running right, oftentimes they sound like, dude, you're about to lose a rod. Because they fight themselves, they just slap against each other. Anyway, let me see here. The pilot jets or the slow jets, right here. This is real critical. I'm going 2 notches larger because the guy's got these pod air filters on it and it's not running good at all, and 2 diaphragms here were dead, on and on and on. But anyway, on this slow circuit, there's a tiny hole up at the top. This bottom hole in the back is like where it sucks air. It works on a suction theory, like one of those paint guns or spray guns where you have a hose, a spray gun like this, but it's also got a hose you stick down in a bucket and it sucks stuff up out through it. Same thing this does. The slow speed circuit, when it won't idle, it's been sitting, it won't idle, it only run on choke. It won't idle, it only run on choke. And it does good, it runs good wide open. That's because the slow circuit is by far, you can see through that slow jet right there, or pilot jet, whatever you want to call it. They have tiny passages. And this total crap ethanol, if you let your bike sit for a month and a half, she's going to be stopped up more than likely. 3 or 4 months or a year, definitely going to be stopped up. So you got to take it apart, clean those passages out. I vat them. By that, I mean, right here. This is, I think, I can't remember, 40, 50 bucks at the parts house. If you leave it in there, it tells you like you have to soak it for 20 minutes. That's garbage. Soak it for 2 hours. If you hadn't got any rubber parts or nylon at all, and you have the time, soak it for 24 hours. See this brass here? I let that soak for like a couple of days while I was working on other parts. See how this brass looks beyond brand new, just great. Well, yeah, the vat gets it totally clean. All this stuff is kind of like arteries on your heart or in your body. With cholesterol, the outsides build up. They keep building up, and it slowly just restricts fuel where these don't quite run like that real sweet new one runs, all the way down to won't run at all and everything in between. So the slow passage, it starts in the back. You normally have 2 to 4 holes in the back. Just blow through them. I stick the spray nozzle with carb cleaner or brake fluid, whatever you want to use in there, and blow through it and verify it comes up to the slow jet hole right here. That tells you you're free, and if you've added it, you feel pretty confident that the outside, like a bad artery, has been cleaned out. And your little hole up here, it'll spray out of there. That's where it actually, there comes to the slow jet right here, has suction on top of it, so it pulls fuel in from where my thumb is, from the float bow, in through that slow jet and out to the little hole on top there. On some carbs it's on the bottom. It's all the same, only different. And right there's where your fuel air mixture screws go. That's part of it as well. These right here. That meters the fuel. Most importantly, a slow idle. And oftentimes there'll be a brass plug on the carb that the EPA makes them put there so we can't tune our bikes. You drill a little hole, put a little dent puller in there, yank them brass plugs out, and you can get your screws out so you can clean it. All that's got to be clear. That hole through the carburetor, through here, and out the back. That slow circuit. The main jet here is much bigger. You'll see them stopped up, but only in bad cases where it's a big piece of trash or the bike's been sitting for 2 years and the ethanol turns to green hair and stops everything up. Another big issue to watch for, right here on the needle seat where the floats go up and down, right here. This goes up and down attached to the floats. Lets the fuel in or stops the fuel flow. This seat right here, you usually get new ones with a good kit. But if you don't, or you don't have time, or you don't need all the kit or whatever, no matter what, you got to take that screw out, pull these out. Here's the old one here. See that O-ring? Those O-rings get hard to the point, and small to the point where the fuel just goes around. See how the fuel is coming in here and it's just laying down there on top of this brass seat. Those O-rings get bad and the fuel will just run around it and just continue to run in the bowl, fill up the crankcase with gasoline, make the compression so high it won't even turn over, or it makes your motor oil so thin you have no compression and it won't run. Anytime your carbs have been bad and leaking and puking fuel, you need to go through your carbs and you got to change your motor oil and your oil filter. More times than not, it's so thin your bike ain't gonna run no matter what you do. These O-rings at Harbor Freight, you can get this little metric blue box O-ring assortment. I buy this mainly for this number 9 here. It tells you here, number 9, the metric sizes, where you can order nothing but 5.8 ID, 9.6 OD, 1.9 actual width or section. I buy this whole box and I just charge like $1 or $2 each job when I use these. By the time I use them up, that's easily paid for this. And I'll give this whole box of O-rings to a friend or something, and I'll buy me another box of them just to get these O-rings, because they're good O-rings and they're the perfect size. I put them on here. You can lightly grease them, or I just do it redneck style usually, and just run my tongue around it, and they'll push right in perfectly. Those are awesome, perfect O-rings for these seats. But that's the slow jet, and these seats, those are biggies. These diaphragms here cannot have a hole in them or a tear. They can't be all like gasoline burned, or you can kind of see through them. They must be in good shape. On this job, I hadn't got them in yet. I had to order two that for whatever reason, one of them had a hole, another one looked like somebody put acid on it or something, and it was stuck and glued and just miserable. But that's about it as far as, I was just wanting to point out what to really look for. You want everything clean, clean everything up. I still got detail on these carbs some. And oh, the intake manifolds. This is a 2001 Yamaha V-Stars, all the bikes, the four-wheelers, all brands. This, well, let me get one here unwrapped. That's what bolts to the head. It bolts to the head and the carbs go on it, right? These are rubber. They get old, they crack, they get hard to where you can't hardly get a carburetor in them. They get hard and they crack. They suck air, they leak. They make it impossible to tune the motorcycle, and you end up chasing your butt. Most brand bikes, you can get these very affordable on eBay. They're just as good as any other brand. You don't got to go to Yamaha and pay $100 each for them, you know what I'm saying? Replace those. Oh, another biggie. That O-ring right there won't seal nothing. I guess about 3 times in my life I got in a hurry and just put these on. Get everything all together, start everything up, and the sumbitch is sucking air. Where? Right through this, the brand new manifolds with the brand new O-ring. Put you a liberate dose of Yamaha 4 around this, or what I use, same thing, different brand, is right here, 3-bond 1184. On these two-stroke center cases that don't have a gasket, use that. On these intake manifolds here, use that. If you're working on a carb and a float bowl gasket leaks, that's the only thing wrong with it. For now, clean it up, put that 1184 on it, and she ain't gonna leak. You might have to take a chisel to get it apart. Not that bad, it's good stuff. If it's oil or gas related and you don't want it to leak, use 1184. So that's about it. You can leave your comments, ask me questions. I've done this a long time. I do this all the time, on and on and on. It's really very simple. Every part goes in one place, and all you do, if you're nervous about it, just take it apart and lay the parts out the same way they come out of the carb, like if you're working on this, and just do one at a time if it makes you nervous, or maybe you're only doing one. If you take the floats off, the pin, like that, you take that seat out and this little screw, stack all them parts right there together in a little baby stack. If you're taking the same with the main jet, the needle jet, stack them together. pilot jet, stack it by itself, and stack them like how they kind of come out. Like, okay, like here's me a pile down here. That's like the float stuff. Okay, like over here, that's my slow jet. It was kind of over here in orientation. Here's my needle jet over here. Just lay it out how you take it out. Keep it simple. Take pictures. I take pictures all the time on stuff I know what I'm doing, but I still pop, 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 pop. It's free. Just take pictures, you know. On new stuff that I need to be cautious about, that I don't know right off the top of my head where every single part goes. I take pictures as I go before I take it apart, and as I get it laid out, I take pictures. Now, I don't mean spending maybe 10 minutes on a motor job extra, taking a few pictures. Now, leave your comments. I do trying to keep license plates out of here best I can, but just all kinds of stuff here. That's what those carbs are going on here. Here's a Sporty, and here's a V-Star 650 and KTM 50 and 99 CR250R. I've built that all the way from the ground up in boxes, and just about done with it and getting closer. It's gonna be my pet bike, but a guy just had to have it. Here's the R1 with, I got to pull the motor out and repair the shift forks on it. And the custom, I've done a ton of work on it. There's a TRX 250, the infamous Honda sideways motor. Complicated piece of garbage. Actually, it's a good motor. It's just way complicated. You know, Honda. Anyway, no, it's all good stuff, but I've got all the parts for it right there. New crank, new cylinder, piston, air filter, carb kit, battery. A lady gave him that and it was locked up, so I'm just gonna go to it and make it like new for him, you know. It'll still be worth his while. So anyway, holler at me if you have something you wanna see how it's done. Just leave a message, because I just bet you I'll do it here pretty soon, whatever it is you're wanting to see how it's done.